Have you ever published a book that you worked so hard on and you know it's good, you know people would love it, but it's not doing as well as you wanted it to or as well as you hoped it would? I'm going to give you 5 tips to bring your book back to life if you have published a book and it's not doing as well as you wanted it to or as well as you'd hoped for. So let's go to the screen. I have 5 tips for you, and you need to watch to the end because tip number 5 is actually something that most people don't consider or pay attention to. So first tip is, and I see this happen a lot, is people give up. Don't give up too soon. What I see is a lot of people, they give up. They might have launched their book, or you might have launched your book, and maybe you even tried getting some reviews. Maybe you got some reviews through the review platforms, and maybe you're discounting it and you're doing everything you can for a proper launch, but you're not getting the sales that you had hoped for, or maybe you're not getting any sales at all. You know your book is good. You put so much time and effort into it, but it's just not doing as well as you wanted it to. And then what people do is they just give up and they start another book, or they just give up on KDP altogether. But most people will just try another book and do that again. And if it doesn't work, try another book. And while we should continue publishing books, people give up too soon in pushing that book, that first book that they did, and just getting it a few months. And if it doesn't work, they give up. So what you need to do is hang in there. And so you need to figure out, what is it that is causing your book not to sell? It could be something that you could fix. It might be the book cover. It might be something about the interior. It could just be your listing. Maybe you're just not optimizing your listing. There could be so many reasons. And there are ways to find out what is it that your book needs to be changed so that it would get better sales. I'm going to cover that in a different tip. But tip number 1, do not give up. Give your book a chance. Give it a longer time. Keep trying, keep pushing it in the different strategies that I talk about, whether it's the reviews, whether it's getting it out there on social media. Tip number 2 is your book title. And yes, I probably had talked about this before, and I know a lot of people talk about this, but it's not just finding a title for your book that has all of the relevant keywords, even though that's really important. But if you are in a saturated or a very competitive niche, you have to find a way to make your book title stand out. So for this example, I typed in trading strategies, and I took these 2 examples from the results. Now, the book on the left, High Probability Trading Strategies, is actually not doing very well. It's a very generic type of title. Maybe the word's high probability, but that's not strong enough. So we need to find a way to differentiate ourselves from the competition and stand out with some clever wording, something that will grab their attention. If you look at the one on the right, it says advanced futures trading strategies. Yes, this is about futures. So it's about a certain type of stocks. So it's focused on that. So the one on the left, advanced futures trading strategies, also has the same keywords, trading strategies, but the advanced futures part, well, this was focusing on futures and it's for advanced. It does narrow down its audience a little bit more. And I can't read this subtitle, but at least here it says 30 fully tested strategies for multiple trading styles and time frames. This could have actually been a little bit better, but I do know that this author, this person, is doing pretty well with this book. So you want to find out a way to make your title stand out. You want it to be eye-grabbing in a way that people are going to read the title and feel like there is something really different about this book. I want to check it out. Now, tip number 3, competition is good. I know a lot of people shy away from highly competitive niches, and I know it can seem intimidating, but if you had the option of choosing a niche in a very highly competitive, saturated subject matter, or choosing something that has almost no audience or no demand, you are far more likely to make sales, even if you have a lot of competition in a highly saturated, highly competitive niche. So for example, this book, I don't know how many people are looking for Florida Notary Handbook. I'm sure there are. It's not like a completely dead subject, but it's very difficult to make a lot of sales with this. They might make a few sales, but it won't be sustainable. If, of course, if this is something that you are doing for your clients or something that you're doing on the side, then that's a whole different goal. But if your goal is to make money from your books, then you cannot choose a niche where there is a very, very low demand a very small audience. Now, tip number 4, this will tie into tip number 1, which is don't be afraid of ads. Ads can be intimidating. Maybe for some people, they might be intimidating. And yes, if you do ads wrong, yes, it will burn through cash. You'll end up spending so much money and not getting any sales. And that's very discouraging and very disappointing. But there is a way for you to use ads to possibly make sales. Of course, it's great if you make sales, but you want to also use the ads to give you data. When you run ads, your book is going to get impressions based on the type of ads you're running. You can tell from those impressions what's going on with your book. Are people even clicking on it? If they are clicking, are they buying? So there's different stages where you can find out about the amount of people that are actually seeing your book, the amount of people from those that are seeing it that are actually clicking, and the amount of people who are actually clicking are actually buying. So because you have these 3 stages, you can get some information about your book and how Amazon is able to rank your book, identify your book. What is the data that Amazon is using? Are you giving it enough information so that Amazon understands what your book is about so they can show it to the right people? So all of this information is accelerated when you can run ads. Now, I do have another video about ads. If you would like to run ads and have a very, very, very low budget, you can spend like, say, $2 to $3 a day and make sales slowly. I do have a video on that, so make sure to check that out. But do not be afraid of ads. Use it for your benefit, even if you're not going to profit. You want to start small. You can always start with a very small budget. And if you don't have a budget, don't do more than $2 to $3 a day. That $2 to $3 will be very valuable to you. You're going to use it to get data that you're going to use for your book to find out what needs improvement in your book. And in that, you can also go very, very broad. You don't have to be giving Amazon the keywords or the products to put to search for. You could just let Amazon do the work for you. Just go broad, and Amazon will try to figure out over time what your book is actually about to show it to the right people that would be interested in your book. Now, tip number 5, you're going to optimize your book for Amazon. So here are some questions that I want you to think about when I mean by optimizing your book for Amazon. I want you to think how the process of buying a book has changed. Yes, some people go to bookstores. Yes, we go to Barnes and Noble or, any bookstores out there. And sometimes we buy books, and people are still buying books from brick and mortar stores. But I would say a big percentage of the population probably buys mostly from Amazon, actually, than any other online platform. So we're not buying books the old way from bookstores. We're actually buying them from either our phones or maybe even our laptops. A lot of people are buying from their phones. So you have to put that into consideration. How are people shopping? How are they shopping? From what they're typing in the search to how they're scrolling, and how do they see the books? How does it show up while they're scrolling? What are they looking at? What is their thinking process when they're scrolling? What makes them click on a book? What is it that they look at on the listing that makes them decide, oh, I want to buy this book? Because all of that is, as much as it is data, it's also a very emotional process. So we want to put that into consideration. What makes them buy a book? What is it that's going to make them buy the book after they click on the listing? Is it the description that makes them buy the book? Or is it the price? Are they comparing your book with other books that are very similar and maybe they're going to buy the cheaper one? Are they looking at your A+ content? Are they looking at your reviews? Reviews could play a big role. So what makes them buy a book? And all that I said could be factors that make them buy a book. And next thing you want to look at is, how does your book stand next to the competition? So when they're typing in that keyword that they're searching for, a bunch of books are going to show up. Instead of looking at books like they normally would, or we normally would in a bookstore, we might go through the section, say a nonfiction section, and we might see some covers, but most of the books are like sideways, and that's how it's presented to us. But on Amazon, it's presented differently, and you know that. It's presented on a screen. Maybe sometimes it's by the side. Maybe you have to scroll down. But how does your book look when it's next to the competition? Does it stand out? Does it not just stand out as a cover? Does it stand out title-wise? And how does it look as a cover, as a thumbnail? Because it's going to be very, very small. Can they see it? Can they understand what the book is about? Is it attractive even as a thumbnail? So you have to put all that into consideration when you are optimizing your book. And the last thing is, how much info does your book give the buyer? So that would be not only in the title, but also as they click on it and they look at your listing, how much information are you able to give them? They don't have the ability to pick up the book and flip through it like we normally would, and maybe look at the table of contents, maybe read the back, and maybe skim through a chapter to decide if we want to buy the book. They're going to depend on your listing. They're going to depend on what they can see inside on the see inside button. They're going to depend on your description. Maybe if it's easy enough for them to read it quickly, they're going to depend on maybe A+ content that would show us off some stuff or explain to them what the book is really about or who it's good for. All of that information is the only thing that they have to decide if that's the book for them. And then possibly the price, even though the price won't play that much of a role if the prices are very similar. So mostly you would focus on the amount of information that you're able to give your buyer through your listing. So that is tip number 5, to optimize your book for Amazon for a shopper to understand it, feel what it's about, and be able to buy it. So that's it for today. And if you have any questions, I'm also going to leave a bunch of links below for tools that I've used. I hope this helped you a lot, and I will see you in the next video.